Everybody's got a price, it's the $1 million man. Podcast in demand. Understand, everybody's got a price. $1 million man. Everybody's got a price. $1 million man. Everybody's got a pod, it's the $1 million man. Podcast in demand. Understand, everybody's got a price. $1 million man. Everybody's got a price.
What's up, everybody? It's Marcus D'Angelo. We're back for another episode of Everybody's Got a Pod. And of course, I am joined by the $1 million man, the Hall of Famer, Ted DiBiase. Ted, what's going on, man?
Hey, it's you, Marcus. It's time to do it again. And man, I tell you what, I love doing this because you do this research and you pull out so many things that I had totally forgotten until you mention them, man. It's cool. It's almost like me reliving them, you know.
You know, it's funny, as I'm recording this, I just finished doing a recording with Jim Duggan for the Hacksaw Hour over on adfreeshows.com, and he was telling me the same thing. We were watching some Mid-South stuff, and he was like, Marcus, he was like, no joke, I have never seen any of this ever. And it's funny. It's funny because there was no like TV replay. It's like, if you missed it, you missed it, and that's that.
Yeah.
So, it's a lot of this stuff is kind of being uncovered for the first time for you guys. So it's interesting to see you guys react.
Yeah, and I think if my memory serves me right, Vince McMahon now owns all of that.
All of it belongs to Vince.
Every wrestling tape that's in, I mean, maybe not in Japan, but you know, anything that was territorial in the United States, he owns it.
Yep. And I don't know if you ever heard about this or not, but it's so I don't know what he paid for like the AWA stuff or Mid-South for that matter. Well, Mid-South probably would have been lumped in with the JCP stuff after the acquisition. But did you ever hear what he ended up paying for WCW's video rights and to, you know, all that?
No.
So like to essentially buy WCW, including their entire library, I think it came out to $2 million in total.
Wow.
Right. So all of that video library, all of the content that he's now monetizing with the network, it's like, man, looking back, we have the benefit of hindsight, but pretty good deal for the chairman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's kind of like, you know, I sent, they they give us a contract every couple of years. And I can't remember how often the contract comes, but if you read the contract, it's basically like, okay, he owes me lock, stock, and barrel. You know, and there are some guys that haven't re-signed with me, you know, and but I think it's more to my benefit if I do. But I mean, of course, royalties, you know, I think they're obligated to the royalties whether I sign that contract or not.
That's right. So you should receive royalties whether or not you've signed a Legends contract. Yeah. And yeah, you know, there's a lot more options nowadays. You know, the world has changed and that more people are able to produce action figures. So now all of a sudden, a lot of guys are eyeing their WWE contract and saying like, well, you know, guys like Matt Cardona and Powertown Toys and all of these other companies are producing their own action figures. Maybe I can actually do better if I go on my own and with a non-exclusive contract. So a lot of people are starting to kind of explore their footing. So you never know what's in the future for the $1 million man, right?
Yeah.
Well, we know what's in the future for the $1 million man, but not to DiBiase. Separate entities. Vince owns the $1 million man.
Yeah, he does.
Well, we can get into our topic here in a minute, Ted, because today we're looking back to WCW again to talk about 1996, and we're actually going to be covering 2 months this time around. As this episode drops, it's going to be December 1st, so we're going to be talking about November and December of 1996. So that includes World War III, Starrcade, plenty more. This one should be an absolute blast, but before we get into it, you guys know what's going on here. I've got to do my usual reminder about getting subscribed at youtube.com/@everybody's-got-a-pod. We've got 2 giveaways going on right now with a signed Elite action figure and a signed WWE Superstars figure, which by the time you guys are hearing this are going to be in the mail and headed Ted's way for him to sign. We're going to name 2 winners at the end of the month, and you can be one of them. Just get over to youtube.com/@everybody's-got-a-pod and get subscribed. And by the way, we've got all kinds of cool stuff over there. YouTube exclusive videos, little bite-sized versions of our podcast that you can introduce a friend to. So you're missing out if you're not over there without the giveaway. Get over there and become eligible. It's youtube.com/@everybody's-got-a-pod. So, Ted, something I've been meaning to ask you about as we've been taking our look back here to 1996 and your time at WCW, is a performer that a lot of folks credit with influencing the way that wrestling is today, and a guy who's still active in WWE. We're talking about Rey Mysterio, and he's here in WCW at this time. And his high-flying style and uncharacteristically small size have made him a legend in wrestling. You and I talked on our last episode about, kind of the way that wrestling has gone nowadays with less emphasis on selling, more emphasis on moves and high-flying stuff. And Rey is really kind of responsible for a lot of it. What did you think about Rey and some of the incredible stuff he was doing at the time?
Well, I personally like Rey very much, and the thing about it is this: for Rey Mysterio, who's, I don't even know if comes up to my, at least he comes up to my waist, but he's not a big guy at all. So he's got to have something different,
yes,
to offer. And what he had to offer was, the high flying stuff. But you know what? That's good for Rey Mysterio.
Mm-hmm.
All you other guys out there, don't go out there if you're 6'4" and try to do triple back somersaults. It's kind of, it's the bottom line with me. My whole objection with a lot of what I see on TV today is the thing that has changed is the match. And I'm sorry, but I personally don't believe that should have changed at all, because you're telling a story, and sometimes it's a short story because you may only have a 6-minute match, and then what you can do, or what, and I'll be honest with you, it's really hard to have a match in 6 minutes, but it's just become all this high flying junk. It's just like, I've seen these guys take beautiful bumps, these young kids take a triple back somersault, and if I ever took a bump like I've seen some of these guys take over the top rope to the floor,
mm-hmm.
I'm not going to bounce up like a bunny.
No.
I'm going to stay down and sell it. That's what's missing. Sell it. And that's what sells tickets. It's before the fans can really get behind you, you got to, as much as you possibly can in the time that you have in the ring, try to make them believe your story and make it as realistic as I can. Nobody tries to do that. Well, I won't say nobody, but very few try to do that anymore. And one of the guys that I think has become very good and more of an old style, and again, by a lot of the people who influenced him, was CM Punk.
Mm-hmm.
He wrestles a more old school way. And that's my whole, you know what? I'm going to die on that hill.
And look, I don't blame you. And, it's like everybody says, and, I agree in many respects that, like all entertainment, wrestling needs to change and evolve. And I'm for it. Let's change, let's evolve, let's get better. However, I don't think that you're getting better when you're not selling. And that was the cool thing about Rey Mysterio, was that, yep, he was doing some crazy shit and flying all over the place, jumping out of the ring, but
but the reason he got over is because Rey knew that for him to really get over and to do those fantastic things that he can do, he had to sell. Mm-hmm. He had to put himself in a position to where the people watching the story are going, come on, Ray, come on, you can do it, man. Get up, man. You can do it. Get it up, get up. And just, like the whole thing, one hand that drops and two hands it drops. And if it drops the third time, the match is over. And you keep that hand up and okay, there's still life there. And here he comes. Yeah, I don't know. It's just, but yeah, I have a lot of respect for Ray.
When Ray started to kind of climb the ladder and move up the ranks, a big part of what was happening was that he was having a thing with Kevin Nash. I think this was in 1999, and he beat Kevin Nash. And like the whole idea was that he was in trouble throughout this whole match, and it was really easy for Nash, and Nash is just taking advantage of the guy. And then at the end, he somehow pulls it out. And that's
it's like, it's almost like, it's like, Nash has gotten comfortable with where he's at. And then all of a sudden, Rey Mysterio, like the quick little guy that he is, goes, toot, 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 1, 2, 3.
Yep.
And Nash is left in the ring going, no way.
And it works. It worked with the 1, 2, 3 Kid and Razor Ramon.
Absolutely.
Tried and true. But in order for you to feel like that guy is in danger and feel like, oh, there's no way he's going to be able to pull this one off, he has to sell.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And so much of it has become, it's more like a circus act now. I'm sorry, but what Ray understood, being that size, is that he had to learn how to just sell his butt off and sell and sell and sell. And then, start, and I've watched him, he's really good. Make a good slow comeback and finally get full of fire. And then all those triple back somersaults kick you in the face, moves, they come across and everybody loves him.
And they mean more if they're not happening all throughout the match. If it's part of his comeback and he's busting out some of these crazy moves, then all of a sudden it's like, holy smokes, look at this guy making his comeback. Whereas if you're doing it all throughout the match, it's white noise. It's who cares? I've been seeing it, for 20 minutes now.
Exactly.
Well, look, he was among all of the many talented people here in WCW at this time. And there's a guy who is working behind the scenes who's about to show his talent on the microphone now and show his talent as a heel. It's Eric Bischoff. He's officially going to join the NWO here in November. There had been some fishy circumstances here and there, and now the truth of the matter comes out, and he's out in the open as a member of the group. Ted, I know that you were frustrated because he ended up kind of filling the role that you were initially given in the group. But objectively, what did you think of his work as a heel?
I don't know. I mean, he was okay, but I mean, he was no great worker. I mean, it was kind of like, here was his opportunity to, but I get the one thing I got to give him credit for is, how he ever talked his way into that position.
Right.
The stroke of genius. I mean, he had never been a wrestler. He didn't know how to wrestle. And here he is promoting and calling the shots for a whole bunch of wrestlers for a company, excuse me, but WCW, they don't know crap about wrestling either.
You're kind of stuck in this role behind Bischoff now, that he's sort of the main guy on the mic and the guy who's sort of like essentially the spokesperson for Hollywood Hogan. And you'll come out with Bischoff and Vincent at World War III to confront Piper for a contract signing for a match, and Hogan and Bischoff and Piper will do all of the mic work. So there's Ted DiBiase, a guy who's renowned for his mic ability, and you weren't getting an opportunity to take the mic. Did you feel like Eric was involving himself out of just kind of like a stroking his own ego type thing, or did you feel him in this over the top boss character was kind of like a crucial element in the story?
Well, I don't know what Eric was thinking, and I quite frankly, by the time I went, and jumped off the WWE wagon and jumped to the WCW wagon, I wasn't physically wrestling anymore. I didn't really enjoy what my heart was into was being in the ring with the tights on and doing it. Mm-hmm. And so, I was it was just, I felt like my better days were past me, and I was just filling in time and making money. So,
Now,
I was real excited about WCW. And I think I came to a place where, I thought maybe this wasn't such a good idea after all. I don't know.
so despite, guaranteed money and I would assume some of the better money that you'd made in your career up to that point, it's all guaranteed, less days, you're home more. Despite all that, it was you weren't creatively satisfied anymore, or getting to feel the satisfaction of actually getting in the ring anymore, and
Yeah,
you were not really enjoying yourself, huh?
not really. No, not really. But
Goes to show the money's just not
and,
everything, right?
and yeah, it was well, and the whole thing with Bischoff. Like I said, I mean, he hires me for a role, and then ultimately he puts himself in the role that he hired me for.
Mm-hmm.
I said, and I didn't get in his face or anything about it, but I did say, I said, look, I said, you've seemed to have taken that role, and I said, uh, I'm not just going to go out and be somebody's belt bearer.
Right.
Yes, I'm not going to go out and just stand in the corner with my thumb up my butt, looking like Joe Idiot. So, if you don't have anything better for me to do, then just send me home. And I wasn't unhappy about that, because he still had to pay me, and that's what ended up happening.
Well, it won't be long into the conversation before the rest of the NWO comes out, and we'll have a look at our first clip this week in this confrontation at World War III.
Whole world to see this. Show him the hip. Oh, no. Boy, you're a straight up dude, aren't you? You're really on the money, aren't you, honey?
What is he talking about?
Let me show the whole world what I've been talking about, Piper. Show him the hip.
Wow.
Huh?
Look at that scar.
How about that, Red? Hey, you know something? I don't usually pick on cripples.
Wow. Oh, from my...
I don't usually pick on people that are like Peg like Pete. But since the whole world seems to like you, my friend, and since the whole world wants to see the war that didn't end the score, oh yes, my man, it's gonna be my pleasure to sign this contract.
There it is.
And let me tell
Yeah.
you, Piper, now that I've signed that contract, you, my friend, are not gonna have a leg to stand on, because I can't wait to beat up a gimp.
Yeah, there you go. Get after him. He's going after Hogan.
Get after him!
He is sorely outnumbered here.
Well, he picked it. Like I said, he's in there with him now. Hogan just a whipping on him.
And he knew what to expect getting in that ring.
You're right.
The NWO wasn't gonna leave him alone. They don't want him healthy after he signed his name to that contract.
They can't hold him down.
No, they won't hold him down. Go get him. Tear his head off. He needs to get on him right there. Got it. Like you say, he's outnumbered.
Showing that scar. There you can see it. Hogan is going to get a chair.
Oh, man, he can't be doing this,
He's
man.
gonna cripple him.
He can't do this.
He's had hip surgery, and Hogan's gonna cripple the man.
That's what he's doing.
Oh, what a bad scar that is right
Oh,
there.
my
Oh,
goodness.
no! No!
My goodness, the question is now, it's been signed, but could Piper compete?
All right, so there it is, Ted, the reveal of Piper's hip, and probably the weakest chair shot I've ever personally witnessed from Hogan
Yeah.
on the scar. Ted, it's funny. I talked to Jake recently about chair shots, and he said whether he was giving one or taking one, he needed it to be a stiff shot because you really can't make it look good any other way. What's your opinion when it comes to giving or receiving a chair shot?
Well, it's the same, but I guess the one thing that I would say is that anytime I took a chair shot to the head, I mean, I didn't just stand there with my hands down. It's like the old thing is, as that shot's coming,
Mm-hmm.
and so I could take a good chair shot, but the reason that it's kind of like I took enough bumps and everything, but I mean, like I was never one of those guys that I'm going to stand there and just let you hit me in the head, even though it's a folding chair and all of that crap. I wasn't going to let anybody just hit me in the head. There was some, there's okay, I love the business, but there's just some places you don't go. It's like kind of like the reason that wrestling is because it's sports entertainment. It's to me it's like playing football.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're a football player, you're not going to take the helmet off and let somebody hit you in the head with a chair.
They're, try to tackle somebody without your helmet on or any crazy risks like that. Yeah, it's I can't imagine that it's always perfectly timed even when you're getting your hands up to block a chair shot. Has anybody ever slipped one past and really got you good with a chair?
Yeah, I mean,
who remembers though after you take a shot like that?
Nobody ever just came after me with a chair. It was always worked, so to speak. Jake and I, we had a lot of good matches, and we had several matches where we ended up bleeding,
Mm-hmm.
and I've taken a shot from him. He's taken a shot from me, but it's just knowing how to do it.
Did you ever let somebody get juice with you hard way, or were you always bleeding to get there?
No, I never let anybody hard way me.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like fun to me.
Yeah.
Well, the stage is set for Starrcade with Hogan and Piper, and Meltzer would say that this angle was good, but too bad the two of them actually had to work a match. Now, Ted, were you optimistic that these two older performers, they're both in their 40s here, were you optimistic that they could carry a main event at one of the biggest shows of the year?
I had no doubt. I mean, you're talking about, of course, two of the biggest names in the wrestling industry and who had handled themselves very well, obviously, or wouldn't be in the positions they were in. But to say that these two guys couldn't go out and have a match is ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that they're going to have some kind of a mat classic. I don't think that they're going to, go out there and do any top rope maneuvers. But I think that, a couple guys with great charisma and great storytelling, it's like, okay,
Yeah,
they got
absolutely.
something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, so Ted, the big gimmick for World War III is, of course, a 3-ring, 60-man battle royal for a shot at the world title. Ted, 60 men jam-packed into 3 rings, and this is not like the Royal Rumble where it's like, every couple of minutes somebody new comes out. Nope, the match starts with 60 dudes in 3 rings fighting. What did you think of this concept?
Well, I was just happy I wasn't the one that was going to have to determine who went out first and who went out last and everything in between.
Hell, if I was in it, I'd be volunteering to get out of there first. Just eliminate me. Let's
Yeah.
go home.
Yeah.
I mean, overall, Ted, battle royals. What do you think about them? Because it's especially something like this. I mean, I'm trying to paint a picture for people here. It's 3 rings, 20 men in each ring. I mean, what the hell do fans focus on? I have a hard time.
Yeah.
Focusing
Yeah.
on
I mean, I don't think it's ever been done again, and I hope it's not. But I think that just the advertising something so huge, I guess would spark the curiosity of the fans one time. I mean, I can't, I have you ever heard of another 60-man battle royal?
I mean, not since WCW stopped doing them. It was not the Royal Rumble, and yeah, I mean, like the
Well, yeah,
camera.
and I tell you what, if you watch you know, if you watch a match like that where you got, maybe 12 guys or even 15 guys in the ring, you know, and you just have to do it. You find out, it's like I always knew, okay, when so and so goes out, I'm next.
Hmm.
And that's how everybody did it. It's kind of like, okay, I'm going to go out right after he goes out. And that's so there was no confusion. So you knew you were in the ring until you know the guy that's going out right before you takes a bump and goes out. And over the top, I think it was either over the top rope or by pinfall, but most of the time it was over the top rope.
Yep.
And if it's done in a good way, it can be a pretty fun and exciting match, especially when it gets down to like maybe the last four guys.
Oh yeah.
And I can remember watching a match like that in Amarillo, and the last three guys were Dory Funk Jr., Terry Funk, and I can't remember who the last guy was, but now you got two brothers in there that everybody knows, and now they got to try to get each other out of the ring.
Right. Like obviously they're going to team up against the other guy at first, but once he's gone and it's just the two of them, it's like, okay, this is going to get interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, no, it's like I love battle royals in general,
Yeah.
but man, 60 guys in a ring or even 30 guys in one ring all at
Yeah.
once. That's the nice thing about the Rumbles. They stagger bringing people out, so it's not some insane mass of humanity in there. Ted, when you're in a battle royal, like what's your strategy to avoid catching like an errant elbow or getting a knee to the face? Because there's a lot of body parts moving around in there.
Yeah, I would always find a corner.
Okay.
I'd get with somebody and I'd lock up and I'd pull them into the corner with me and I said, okay, let's fight. You hit me a few times, I'll hit you back. Da, da, da. But and sometimes there were a few like high spots done in battle royals too, but you had to know when it was coming. And then I can't remember just how they. Everybody knew. It's kind of like when so and so gets with so and so, everybody get out of the way because they're going to do this, whatever. So.
It's funny. I've asked Jake that question before too, talking about the Rumble. Like he's like, "Oh, I hate him. I hate being in battle royals and Royal Rumbles." He's like, "Because it's just dangerous. You never know if you're gonna catch an elbow." And I'm like, "So what is your strategy?" And he said the same thing as you. He's like, "I go and find a corner." And so now that I've heard you say it, I'm like, "Is that just everybody's strategy? Everybody's just trying to get into the corner."
The smart guys try to find a corner. Yeah,
that's just the savvy veterans. Well, look, the next night on Nitro, the NWO gets yet another new member as Buff Bagwell turns on his partner, Scotty Riggs, and joins the group. Ted, Buff is not a name I see us having a lot of discussion about here on the show. What do you think about Buff Bagwell and his inclusion in the group?
Buff's a decent guy. He's a good-looking guy. But, I didn't ever see Buff as being a big star.
What do you think that he was missing? He's got the looks. He's good in the ring. Like he's fair on the mic. He's got decent mic skills. Like what do you think was the X factor that he just did not have?
Well, I mean, I guess because it's like you could have a good match with Buff, but I don't think you could have a great match with Buff, and have a 30 or 40-minute match with him.
Okay.
I don't see having a long match with him. And again, I like the guy. Obviously a good-looking guy, and he was a good hand, maybe better than average, but there lies the deal. Some guys make it all the way to the top, and some guys don't.
Not a guy who can carry a match. If you put him with a bad opponent, maybe he's not capable of turning it into a good match.
Yeah. Yeah.
Larry Zbyszko has not been an in-ring performer for years at this point, but he and Scott Hall are here teasing working together during this time. Ted, have you had a lot of interaction with Larry over the course of your career? It feels like this would have been the only time you guys had crossed paths.
Larry Zbyszko.
Yes, sir.
I think the first time I went to New York, Vince Senior was still the boss, and I don't know how long after that Vince Junior took over. But that's the first time I saw Larry or met Larry, because he was working there at the time as well. But you know what? I've never really worked with Larry ever.
It seems like a guy, that I think you would have had good chemistry with. And yes, I was trying to think over like, when would Ted have had?
And he was close, and Larry, I think Larry was pretty close with Bruno Sammartino.
Yes.
Yeah, they were pretty tight. And that's the other thing. Bruno was he was very good on the mic, and he had a great body, but he wasn't like a Funk. He wasn't like a technical, grappler, but very believable nonetheless. Very believable. So there you have it.
And I mean, we were just talking about like finishers that are kind of like, not these big, crazy, over the top moves. I think Bruno's finisher was like a bear hug. And he got over. He was one of the biggest stars in the world,
Yeah, that's because they made that special. I guarantee you, when another wrestler came into the territory, what's your finish? And please don't say bear hug, because only one guy has the bear hug, and that's Bruno.
Yep. Well, the NWO wasn't done gathering members just yet. Let's drop in on the 12/9 episode of Nitro and have a look at your introduction of a new member.
Into the holiday season, and that means into the Starrcade season.
Hey, here comes DiBiase. Obviously not happy with the words out of the mouth of Piper.
Well, is he coming here to our location?
Do I look like the great Kreskin or something?
I don't know. The last time an NWO member came out when I had the microphone was last week, and they chased us all away.
Look, I'm not worried about DiBiase. It's just all the thugs together.
DiBiase is watching the match. There's a power slam from Enos.
Nice one, too. Enos, good snap.
He is standing on the other side of us.
Wait a minute, he's got contracts in his hand or something.
He does have a paper in his hand.
We've already seen the defection starting with Marcus Bagwell.
That's right, it happened a couple of weeks ago. Mr. Wall Street picks up Mike Enos. Stock market crash. 1, 2, 3. And he disposes of Enos quickly. So who's getting the contract? What's going on here?
I don't know. Enos was distracted. I don't know.
He's handing it to Wall Street.
And Wall Street doesn't need the money.
Is Wall Street joining the NWO?
Wall Street, yeah.
Oh man.
They only knew.
Oh, your old tag team partner and you were reunited as members of the NWO.
Yeah.
Obviously, most fans knew, okay, it's $1 Million Man and IRS from the WWF. It's just interesting now to see him here. He's in WCW as VK Wall Street. He was also once known, I don't know if you knew about this gimmick, he was Captain Mike Rotunda in WCW a few years prior, and a captain, like a ship captain gimmick.
Yeah.
It feels like a guy like Mike, a performer of his quality, could have been used better than a VK. VK, by the way, being a reference to Vincent Kennedy McMahon.
Yeah.
Wall Street. Feels like maybe he could have been used better over the years. What did you think?
I think so. I do, because Mike had the talent. He had, and we worked well together, and he interviewed well. I don't know. I really don't know why.
It's strange.
Yeah,
I
it
know, we did a episode about Money Inc., part 1 of our talk about Money Inc. A few months back, and I never asked you this question. Ted, the IRS gimmick overall in the WWF, too cheesy, or do you think it was kind of perfect for him?
Well, I don't think he had done anything else like that prior to that. But I don't know. Hard to really I don't know, maybe kind of like being the $1 million man. That's like, well, okay, this guy's this ultra rich, I see that. But to me, the IRS it's kind of like if you're going to call yourself the IRS, then you should obviously be a heel because nobody likes the IRS.
I think that was Vince's whole thing. He was getting all these crazy taxes and whatnot and fees, and he was like, "I hate the IRS," and that's how he like came up with the character. It's just funny because it's like, okay, is this guy like, what is he, like an accountant? Like he's not the IRS. His name is Irvin R. Shyster. Like, what is this gimmick? But weirdly, it's Mike's biggest claim to fame, really, and he made it work. He took maybe questionable creative and had a nice run with it.
Yeah, he did.
As well, Kevin Sullivan at this time is feuding with Chris Benoit, and the crux of their issue is a real life affair between Benoit and Nancy Sullivan that's being used as the story. Sullivan is the booker at this time, which makes the whole thing even more insane. I mean, holy shit, man. Have you ever seen anything like this in wrestling before or prior?
Nope.
What did you think about it?
I didn't. I kept all of my thinking to myself. I didn't want to get into that. That's something I just stay as far away from as I can.
Man, that's the veteran move, to stay the hell away from that situation. Because look, Kevin Sullivan he's a wrestler, but like I said, he's the booker, so he's office too, and now he's in charge of booking creative for the guy who's having an affair with his wife.
Yeah.
Man, that is a rough scene.
Yeah, and I don't know how I can't remember how that story ended either.
I know that they would end up getting into like some pretty physical matches together, and I think that Kevin was taking out some of his aggression during those matches. Well, Ted, you take over commentary on the next Nitro along with Bischoff after running the usual crew away from the table. We know that you'd make the transition to commentary during your time with the WWF, so it was nothing new for you at this time. But what would you say was the most difficult part of that transition, going from being a wrestler to now all of a sudden a personality on a headset?
Well, it's just something I had to get used to. I know that I remember the first couple times I did this for Vince. He called me and he said, "Ted," he says, "I'd like you to come back." And I think this was a Survivor Series in Providence, Rhode Island. It was, and he says, like I want you to do color commentary. And I said, "Wow." I said, "Okay." And, I can't remember who was with me, I don't know if it was him, a lot of times it was, but I know Gorilla Monsoon is somebody that I've worked with a lot, when I started doing that, and I got more familiar with it. It's kind of like, Vince would be the play-by-play guy, and, Vince would say, call the shots that were happening. And I the other guy is supposed to what's the word?
The color commentator.
Oh, the color. Yeah. Wow. Gosh, that's going to cost him. He's going to probably get his head knocked off for that. Whatever. But yeah, do the color. And, it was okay. But again, there's nothing I did after getting out of the ring physically that I really, really enjoyed. I mean, I was just happy to be part of the business.
So, Ted, it's also around this time that DDP would throw one of his now famous Christmas parties, and apparently a lot of talents and office people are there to see Steven Regal headbutt and knock out Van Hammer, who is apparently spouting off at this party. So, Ted, these parties by Dallas have become, famous over the years. Dallas throws a giant Christmas bash. He's like Mick Foley. He loves Christmas. Please tell me that you were there at one of these Christmas parties over the years.
I don't know that I was ever at one of the Christmas parties, but I know the first time that I met Dallas, I was the $1 million man, and he was a bartender at a bar in Fort Myers, Florida.
Okay.
That's where I met him, man. I can still remember. That's probably one of the drunkest nights of my life too, because I can remember, like sitting down like they had a bar, and but the seat I could sit on the seat, and I could lean back and put my head on the counter. Okay? So imagine this, with my mouth wide open, and Dallas just taking the booze and pouring the drink, mixing the drink in my mouth.
I knew where you were going as soon as you said you could lean your head back.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, and after that, there's not much more I remember about that night.
I don't imagine.
Dallas, I love Dallas. I mean, my wife Melanie and I have gone, and we've stayed with him and Paige, and he lives in the Atlanta area. And he's got DBPY yoga, and man, I tell you what, it works. And I need to get my big dumb butt back on it, because I was going good there for a while, and now it's like I wake up and every day is something different. So damn, I was taking a shower and all of a sudden I went, oh, whoa. Where'd that come from?
When you start getting shower-related injuries, you're getting
yeah. I didn't slip or fall or anything. I just washed the back of my head.
Oh, all right. Let's get to Starrcade. There are more than 9,000 fans in Nashville, and you are ringside for the main event as Hogan takes on Roddy Piper. The crowd is going wild for Piper here, which really speaks to the incredible drawing power that these two still had over these years. I mean, Meltzer can say what he wants about, like, oh, geez, too bad they had to have a match in the ring. It's like, look, these guys are draws, and they're telling a story here, and they certainly did. Let's drop in on this match.
Yeah.
Over.
Hogan, a la Roddy Piper, pulling himself up with every effort he can in his body. Here's the big leg.
He missed it.
He was going for the big leg.
Piper's alive. Piper's up on his feet. That's not Bugs Bunny hopping there, pal. That's Roddy Piper.
The way he hopped out from Gene Okerlund.
He's moving right now, and this building's starting to erupt. That's some movement coming down here now.
The Giant's here.
The Giant.
The Giant has come out.
He's going to choke slam him.
He's going to choke slam Roddy Piper.
Of course he is.
Here comes a fan.
He's got Piper up. There's a fan in the ring, for crying out loud.
Yeah, he ain't in that long. That's the wrong place to be.
Piper kicks Hogan down. Piper up in that choke slam.
Piper's a bite, and he bit him right on the nose.
He's gouging the Giant.
There you go.
The Giant's out.
He's got rid of the Giant. Now it's just Piper and Hogan.
Got what in behind him right there. Sleeper
He's
hold.
got the sleeper on Hogan.
Good night, Irene. He's got him. He's got him hooked good. Real good.
I told you. He's got him hooked good as right.
And he goes down.
Got him down. And the referee Anderson is still on top of the ball game right there.
Check his arms. Check his arms. He's going out. He is going out.
Yes, he is. Randy Anderson's got it up for one. He's got it up for two. Here it comes.
Ring the bell. Ring the bell. He put it in the safe. Roddy Piper. He said, I'm not with the NWO. I'm not with WCW. I'm for myself. I'm all by myself. I don't want help from. Look at this, standing on Hogan with one foot. There's the legend. There's Hulk Hogan. There's the icon in this sport. And here comes bad news.
The Giant is up. Piper.
Yeah, don't wait. Don't wait, baby. Go ahead. Deal on him.
Roddy Piper's got to fight on the outsiders.
Get out of there.
Fight
Get out of there.
Stick and move. Stick and move. Stick and move.
And that's what he's doing.
Find your way out, brother. There you go.
There's your winner. There's the man with the bad hip that came all the way from home.
All right. So one of the biggest shows of the year. I mean, a huge reaction, and like a finish that we just don't see happen very often. Normally, by the time the arm drops the third time, the guy starts, hulking up, and the match continues. But man, that was the finish. What did you think?
I thought it was good, and it's good to do that. I mean, it's good. It's good to do that because it's kind of like you just said. You're expecting that third time for it to okay. Now he's gonna start coming out of it, and then he doesn't.
Yep.
Anytime you can fool a crowd, it's a good thing.
And they all went silent because I think everybody was shocked. Like, did his arm actually just fall? And then the big pop happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
So really cool moment. And by the way, like I said during the match, a fan tried to hit the ring, so that's when you know you're doing booking right.
Yep. That's right.
So here's what I've been wanting to talk to you about when it comes to this, though, is this clean victory over Hogan is interesting because we hear all the time that Roddy did not like to get pinned, and even when he worked as a heel in the WWF, most of his matches were ending in DQ or count out. Jake has actually talked about it before and said that he thinks it's absurd to not allow yourself to be pinned in wrestling. I know that you worked with Roddy a number of times in the WWF. What can you tell us about Roddy refusing to take a clean loss?
Well, I don't think that we ever talked about it. I mean, I just, we, we did what we did. And I think, when I was working with him, I was the heel. I mean, I was never the baby face, working with him. And so, I don't know if that was ever even brought up.
Oh, okay.
And I'll be honest with you, until you just said that, I didn't realize that he didn't like to get pinned.
Yeah, that's a big part of his reputation, and I think,
and I wonder how that got by me.
I guess probably because, like I said, or like you said, you were the heel, so you didn't really have to deal with it. And then plus, it's I think that he started to develop this reputation before you even arrived in the WWF, and he was gone, right? He would have been gone by the time you debuted for the WWF.
Yeah.
But yeah, he would not take clean pinfalls. And actually, moving forward from this, they're gonna have a rematch at Super Bowl, and apparently Piper is gonna refuse to let Hogan beat him with his leg drop. And Scott Hall is gonna call Piper out backstage about it and say like, "Hey, Hogan did the favor for you at Starrcade, and you can't put him over clean here at Super Bowl. Like, it's bullshit."
Well, I'll be honest, I didn't know it. I mean, but I'll be honest with you, Scott was right. That's and I liked Roddy, but that's bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the business is a work, and who are you to think that you're so good that you're never going to get beat by a 1, 2, 3 count? That's just, I'm sorry. I would have told him the same thing.
Yeah, it's silliness.
It's just crazy.
Hard to wrap your head around, especially because Piper is kind of like an old school guy, much like yourself or Jake and this generation. I don't know. I know that he had a hard time when he was first coming up in wrestling, so maybe that kind of jaded him, where he was like, "Hey, I need to protect myself in this business."
Yeah, well, there's ways to protect yourself, but refusing to get beat. I mean, it's always the how and the when and the why. Okay. There's, I don't know. Again, you have revealed a couple things to me about guys I've known in the business for 40 years that I never knew before. Just one episode of our podcast. Oh my gosh.
I mean, it goes to show that you were keeping your nose out of other people's business, which is great. That's why you had a nice long career. It's it's funny because it's such an individual business, wrestling. You're focused on your individual contract, your individual look, your individual creative. And it's interesting hearing you and Jake talk about wrestling, because you guys were both just focused on like, okay, how's this match going to be great? Because Jake has always said, he's like, I don't give a shit if I get pinned. It's it's all a work. I don't care. And I know that you feel the same way too.
Exactly.
So it's like you guys are just focused on how do we have a good match, and thereby you guys always had good matches.
And it's the other thing about it's like it's not okay. It's not just getting beat. I mean, but there's a way to get beat and keep your heat. Even if it's a pinfall, it's like, how did the pinfall happen? In other words, It's like it should never, like if you're a heel, and especially if you're working a program, it should never be that the baby face just beats the shit out of you and then beats you. For an example, maybe the baby face makes a big comeback on me, bing 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 bing, and then he goes for a move and I sidestep him or something, and it looks like I'm going to get something on him, and he reverses it, and down I go, and he rolls me up 1, 2, 3. But I mean, just to get your ass totally kicked, slammed, suplexed, or whatever, 1, 2, 3. No, not like that. I think if you follow what I'm talking about,
I do. It's like there's certain ways to do it
it's
where you're not.
certain ways to do it without losing your heat.
I've also heard about heels taking this method, which always makes me laugh because it's silly, but it works. Where if somebody beats you, and even if they beat you clean and wind up kind of kicking your ass during the match, afterwards the heel just says like, "No, you never beat me," which I think is a funny way to do it because that'll piss the audience off too.
Yeah. What are you talking about? He didn't beat me.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like everybody saw it. It's on national TV, but you just flat out refuse to acknowledge it. I think that's one way to go about it. Well, Ted, that is going to do it for this week. This was a really fun episode. I love looking back at your time in WCW. I know maybe not necessarily your favorite time during your career, but such an iconic period of time in wrestling, and what a huge transition. And you're right in the thick of it.
Yeah, and one of the biggest battles was the war between the two companies.
Yeah, that was the main event. Was okay, who's going to do what on Monday night now? And we're going to continue the story next month. We're going to be looking at January 1997, which is most notable for yourself and Eric Bischoff on commentary for the first ever sold out pay-per-view. And Ted, things got pretty weird over there. There was like a most attractive biker contest, which was probably should have been gimmicked and wasn't. There's like the NWO riding around on the back of garbage trucks. So it's a very weird situation. I can't wait to talk.
Where was that held?
That was in it was in the Midwest somewhere. It was in hold on, I'll Google it. Cedar Rapids, Iowa, 5 Seasons Center.
Wow.
All right, before we go, I want to remind you all that if you'd like to get this podcast with no commercials and get access to a ton of sports, entertainment, and other shows, you can only do that on PremierStreamingNetwork.com when you sign up for Premier Plus. Plus, my brother Dom is over there with Rob Van Dam. They have their podcast. My buddy Efren does the game event over there, and there's plenty more. You've got to check it out. If you're a wrestling fan or a fan of entertainment, I can pretty much guarantee you're going to love it. Again, it's PremierStreamingNetwork.com, and it's Premier Plus. If you're enjoying our show and you're listening on your podcast app, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review, because that does Ted and I a huge favor. You can follow Ted at MDM Ted DiBiase on his social media. Follow me at Marcus P. D'Angelo on X, and follow Premier Streaming Network at Watch on Premier on X and at Premier Streaming Network on Instagram and Facebook. Another look back to 1996 and your time in WCW, Ted. It was a great episode today.
Before I go, you all must know everybody's got a price for the $1 Million Man. Yeah.
We'll catch you guys next time right here on Everybody's Got a Pod.